Okay, I'm recording now. All right, so we are going to go to the assignments folder, which is the white folder at the bottom of the screen here, the Schoology screen, and open up collage folder, process journal number 2. And this looks just like the last folder, except for there's no videos yet because I'm recording right now. I decided to just wait and do it live because I just finished all of my research and stuff for it. So the very top thing here, process journal number 2 collage, everybody go ahead and click on that and open it. And it looks the same as the last process journal did. It's got the instructions and then it has the process journal. Once you open this is your copy. It'll become your copy. You can search it in your drive or you can come to it directly from here. And it's a little bit longer than the last process journal because it's more points and we're getting into more stuff. And if you have not picked up your supplies for this class yet, I want you to know there's a bunch of stuff for you at Huron to use for this class. And at this point, you have to contact Mr. Somerton. You have to call the school and talk to Mr. Somerton or Mr. Edmondson about coming and getting your materials because they can set up they're in the buildings during certain times so they can meet up with you so that you can come up there and get access to it. I've done a bunch of like drop-offs and meetups and I'm pretty much done with that for now. So if you still haven't gotten the materials, except for there's one person in this class that I know I have to drop off. I'm doing like one more final drop off this weekend. So if you are like, I don't have my materials, I don't want to call this school, you got to email me right now and just say, okay, I still don't have my stuff. Can we figure this out? Because I want you to have your stuff, obviously. In the second process journal, you've got another check-in with me. So the last one, you kind of introduced yourself. So then this is another check-in slide. So you have all of, until we're finished with this process journal to fill this out. These are the mindful moments that we're going to do. So every time we have one of these again, you're going to put your comments. Oh, I didn't even add the information. Oops. And then you're going to put your comments below. The next part is the first activity that we do. I'm going to assign it today. You're going to have time to work on it next week, and then it's due next Friday. It's just a little mini activity. You're going to put your photos there. The next activity that we do, you're going to put your photos there. And then the final activity, it's more like a project that we do. You'll put photos of it here. You'll create different layouts and then you'll create the actual final collage. There's your reflection questions that'll have to be filled out once you finish your final collage, and then you'll bring it to critique just like we did last time and get it filled out and put your critique comments in. We're going to do the critique a little bit differently this time, but we'll talk about that when we get there. That's a little bit away. Looking at the handbook, just an overview of like what we're doing here. This is today, Friday the 5th. And we're working, so the blue is asynchronous. Next Tuesday is actually going to be an asynchronous work day for you. You'll just do a quick check-in post to get your present attendance mark. And you'll be working on the assignment that I give you at the end of the hour today, all hour, next Tuesday. And then next Friday, a week from today, you'll bring it back to class, you'll share it, and we'll move on to the next activity. And then we will move on to our final activity. You'll have the final project, the final collage you'll be able to work on it in class these days. We'll have spring break, and then we'll come back from spring break and turn it in. So that's in the next month, you'll be working on this collage stuff. I want to remind you that especially the first 2 things that we work on, it's just for fun. Okay. Like don't feel like you have to bring some sort of beautiful final product. It's just a sketchbook thing. There is no right or wrong. I can show you sketchbooks full of things that I don't like and maybe 3 drawings in there that I actually kind of like, because that's just the nature of the sketchbook, is getting out ideas, good, bad, weird, not weird. So keep that in mind when I assign you the assignment today and I tell you you only have a week to work on it. Don't let it get you. Let's start. So we're going to talk about collage for the next month. Oh, and it's telling me that I have to go pick up Stella soon. So we're going to have to do a break here soonish, but it's good that the timing works. So I have done a lot of research about collage in the last like 2 months in preparation for this unit, and I'm still doing research and I'm still working on stuff, but I'm going to be doing this along with you. So instead of having my example ready, it may not be quite ready the first time around, but I'll be doing all this work with you. We're going to focus on the negotiation of ideas with each other because we're going to have some conversations about collage starting today. We're going to consider multiple ways of thinking, including those that might be unusual, because we're going to talk about juxtaposition and surrealism and Dada. And then we're going to consider ideas from multiple perspectives, again, because of the nature of collage. I want you to be a thinker, an open-minded person, and a communicator during this. I want you to really focus on that during this time. And then these are the things that you're going to work on in this unit. Obviously, reading and participating in class discussions, creating 3 different types of collages. So you'll do a couple things in your sketchbook, and then you're going to get to use one of the things in your supply bag, the little canvas boards in there for the final collage. You'll be able to reflect on your work and the work of others in the form of written and verbal critique, and talking about collage competently using your appropriate terms by the end of this. You should be able to do that. Here are our terms for this. So I'm going to break it down. We have 3 sections of this unit. We have the appropriation, the text and image, and then we have the actual collage. So I'll talk about these more as we go through the unit. Today we are going to talk about appropriation, and that is the intentional borrowing, copying, or alteration of existing images and objects. And it's a strategy that's been used by artists for millennia, and it took new significance in the mid-20th century with the rise of consumerism and the proliferation of images through mass media outlets from magazines to television. Juxtaposition, surrealism, and Dada are all things we're going to go more into later in the unit, so I'm not going to go over those, but I'm going to tell you that the definition of collage, what we're saying collage is it's art made by sticking various materials together, such as photographs or pieces of paper or fabric, onto something. And it doesn't just it's not limited to photographs and pieces of paper or fabric, as you will find out when you walk into the scrap box store. And don't forget, I want you all to be in that store at some point before, I think it's April 20th is the due date, something like that, April 23rd. But I'm still working on grading process journal number 1, so I haven't seen what everybody's response is yet to the final project mandatory field trip. So we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. All right, this is a good time to take a break because I got to go get my kid. 11:15, we're back and we're going to do an activity together, and then we'll be done for the day. So go get water, go get a snack, potty break, walk outside. See you soon. All right, so each of the group leader is going to share when I call you off your answers about your article so that we can learn what we shared with each other. I'm looking at the chat now just to make sure before I start. Okay, so we are going to start with group one.
Okay, hi, this is Ilya. So our what is it? Oh, the article is about this artist, Shepard Fairey, and he is the one responsible for the Hope like poster for the Obama campaign. And there was like a lawsuit kind of thing about the photographer who took the photo of Obama and how the artist obviously heavily referenced the photo. And at first, the artist tried to say that he didn't, and it was like not the intent. He said it was under fair use. But then I guess they agreed to like share the rights and the commission made off of it in the future, like going forward. So what it says about appropriation is that it's art appropriation is always we kind of decided that it's important that if you use a reference or something like this, you have to ask permission and you have to credit properly. Because even though like it eventually like came out that it was clearly inspired by this and they like worked together on it afterwards, the Shepard Fairey didn't credit or even like own up to the fact that he used that photo as reference.
All right, thank you, everybody. Group one, and yeah, this kind of reminds me of like when students use, in my advanced classes, they'll use a photo of a famous person and draw them, and it'll be beautiful, but they won't ever put in their references that they used that photo. So this is a good reminder of that. Thank you, group one. We will, I'm just showing the photo as a reference to that so that you can kind of speak on it here. Group two, you are up.
Okay. So this article was about, so they were making the connection between fair use, appropriation, and copyright infringement. And I guess like the leading example was the piece right here, where like originally, like the artist that made this sculpture based it off of like a photo that looked like identical. And you know, like there was controversy with that because like you know the two artists sort of got into a beef, and so then like it sort of started like a chain of like court cases, and then that sort of started to you know raise questions about like you know like you know like what's like the legalities behind like basing your art off of someone else's. um and I'm sorry. um and it gave like the definitions and examples of fair use. It showed the evolution of these court cases and like sort of where these laws, not laws I say, but like rules have sort of ended up, and like over time how like the court has changed their opinions on it. And there was also another one that it talked about where some guy took a photo of some mountains in Jamaica, and some other artist painted over it as one of his pieces, and then so that was just another example. But that's sort of what the article was about.
All right, and what did the article tell you about appropriation?
I had trouble kind of grasping that part, and we also, I guess, didn't really talk about that as much. Maybe
All right.
Okay.
That's okay. That's all right. You answered most everything else. So I think what we pull from this is that it's a big deal to use others' work as your own, and there are a lot of like gray areas. So it says even if you're reading this, you're still not exactly sure what constitutes fair use. You're in good company. So courts literally have to settle these debates. So thank you, Group 2. We'll move to Group 3.
Did you say group 3? I
Yes,
wasn't
Group 3. Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't finish, but I did get some stuff down. And basically what the what the article told me about appropriation is that it's like basically just borrowing and like copying and like changing images that are already there. And it also like at the end of the article, like towards the end of the little paragraph, it said that it's kind of like pushes the boundaries of what it means to be an artist, and that it's kind of like just unoriginal, I guess. And there were two pictures, but I only got to one, and it was basically it was called Jewish Jackie, and there was an artist. Her name was Cass, and she basically took another artist. His name was Andy Warhol, and his painting was basically about former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, and it was basically just like I guess just a image of her. And so then the cast she basically took that and kind of copied it a bit, like it's kind of like the same, except not. I don't think it's Jacqueline Kennedy. I think it's somebody else. And yeah, there was more, but I didn't finish because I kind of got distracted.
That's all right. There was a lot of information in that little article there. So the other two were just really little. It's fine. I think you got the gist of it. I appreciate it. Thank you, Group 3. Sorry, we're already to Group 4. Go ahead.
So there were 3 articles that we had to read, but for the one that was on appropriation, it has the definition at the top, which basically states that it's using already pre-existing art images to create this own art with like some changes to the original. And within the article, it said that um, appropriation can be traced back as far as 1912, and like the two pieces of art that were mentioned was Ready Mades by Marcel Duchamp. I don't know how to pronounce.
You actually pronounced it right. Good job.
Oh, great. Well, not Ready Mades, but one of his Marcel Duchamp's pieces was Fountain, which was interesting. And then another was Salvador Dali's Lobster Telephone. So those were two. And within the article also said that appropriation raised the question of whether it's authentic art, the authenticity of it. And it ended with that this has been used more since the 1980s.
And most of the time when people teach about appropriation, you were mentioning Marcel Duchamp. His fountain is probably of course it's not. Let's see if I can just find it real quick. His fountain is probably the most famous piece of artwork. He's done many pieces of art, but this is Fountain. And when it says ready made, it literally means that Marcel Duchamp found this beautiful urinal wherever he did. and he put his name on it, or some sort of writing on it, and was like, "This is mine. This is my art. I'm going to display it in a gallery." And we're going to talk more about the banana later. I'm going to have you watch a video between now and Friday about the banana. But the banana is very similar to Marcel Duchamp. So he literally just stuck his name on stuff, and that was one of his ways of creating art. So like you could go to Goodwill and buy something and stick your name on it and say that's art. Now it's debatable whether that's good art or not, but there are varying degrees of appropriation. I would say Marcel Duchamp is like at the very like top, extreme appropriated, like you literally just took something and made it yours. And then you have collage artists who are more towards the bottom because they're repurposing images in different ways, in different contexts. So you can get anywhere in between there. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you the following slides. Thank you, all of the groups. Very, very good, hard work on this. I think you got the gist of it. And show you a couple of different appropriated artworks. So we're looking at Duchamp again, the bicycle wheel. And hold on, let me pull up my presentation over here. I let it go. All right. The concept of appropriation or borrowing images, like we said, began in the early 20th century. This is his very first ready-made, which is a class of objects invented to challenge assumptions about what constitutes artwork, like we just talked about. So he put these together in an interesting way. Another artist using appropriation is a Dada artist, Kurt Schwitters. That's a fun name. He combined discarded cultural fragments into artworks known as assemblages. He created the illusion of depth by placing the papers with darker components behind those that are lighter in aspect. And everybody's probably seen this at some point in your life. Maybe in middle school, you did an Andy Warhol project, elementary school. The 1960s brought a new generation of artists interested in exploring their world as a subject of art. So Andy Warhol, when he exhibited this, each of the canvases rested on a shelf mounted on the wall, like groceries in a store, and the number of paintings corresponds with the number of varieties of soup sold by Campbell's Soup Company. So this calls to question, like, what is art? What is advertisement? Another artist that used appropriation in a different way. So Andy Warhol didn't literally take Campbell's soup can and put it on a wall. He printed it or painted it. He used primarily printmaking techniques in his artwork, including like polymer printing, Anyway, he had a different techniques that he did, but he did not use an actual can. That is the point. Same thing with Liechtenstein. So he also just appropriated things from life. So this would be like he's taking this one scene out of a comic book that he likes, right? And then he's making it into art. So I want you to know the difference between the two. You can either use it to collage with, or use it as a urinal and put it on a pedestal and say that's my art, or you can use just a piece of it as inspiration. Like you could go through your favorite comic book or graphic novel or whatever and find like a tiny little spot of a scene to redraw on a bigger piece of paper, and that would be appropriation too. Now, as long as you credit the artist, I'm sure that you would be fine for appropriating it. And then here's another image of Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein's work. Pop artists like them were very aware of the past, and they sought to connect fine art traditions with pop cultural elements.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and here's some artists that I just want to show you their artwork and different ways they appropriate. So Romare Bearden is appropriating by doing typical collage, just all collage, using all kinds of images from different books and magazines and using them in a different or interesting way. Over here, this is the image that is part of a website that I found that I really liked, and Romare Bearden talks about his artwork here and how he meant his artwork to show the richness of his culture. He was a wonderful human and made lots of great artwork and was also a musician, and we'll talk a little bit more about him when we do our unit on music, which is the next one. This artist here is Sharf. Oh, do I not? Oh, I had the links. I just forgot to put on there. This artist is Sharf and Kenny Sharf. And so he uses sort of this everyday feel. So in the background of this, there's like cleaning ads. There's a stove. There's little cleaners. But then he weaves in this new world, this interesting, complex, purple, trippy world in front of this yellow manic background of cleaners. So another very interesting way to appropriate images of things. You all know collage more in its traditional sense. You might have done a collage in another class or for art and design. So here are two more traditional collage examples, use of materials. I love that this collage over here is from 1948 because I feel like it could also be, it's still relevant today. I think about all those images and they still mean something interesting today. And you could, just make a question of how does this relate to this, relate to this, relate to this, that's how easy appropriation can be. So what you all are going to do, 12:01, perfect timing, between now and next Friday is what's on this page here. So you're going to create a 1-page sketchbook entry. Doesn't have to be anything special. Look at how simple this one is here. And this is an artist, like an actual artist made this. And all they did was cut out images and put them together. So I'm going to challenge you to use those greeting cards, the ones that said pick 2. I'm going to challenge you to use at least one of those. You have to use one. So that's the object. If you did not pick up your supplies yet and you don't have one of those funky greeting cards, you can use one appropriated image from a magazine. But if you picked up a one of those greeting cards, I want you to try to use that image. You can use it in 2 ways. You can either use it physically in your work. So think about the artwork of Kirk Schwitters, Richard Hamilton, or Romare Bearden. So these would be literally using you could add it to more of a collage. So let's say you have a cute little fat baby on your card. All right, that is the startings of a terrific card, of a terrific appropriated art. So you could add this fat baby to this world of other collaged materials and collage all around it. You could just make this fat baby right in the middle of the page and then draw a whole strange world around this fat baby. That would be a way of actually physically using your card because you're using an object that was on your card. The other option is to draw or paint a representation of what's on your card. So let's say you're like, I don't want to use the fat baby, but I'd like to paint a picture of the fat baby and what it would look like if it were, in colors or had a Halloween costume on it, or as if it were one of Andy Warhol's Campbell's soup cans, and I'm painting 6 versions of the fat baby. Okay, so this is kind of open to you. You can do one or the other. All I expect is that a week from now you come back to class and you have an appropriated sketchbook page, either using one of the greeting cards. You can use more than one if you're like, oh, I got some cool stuff on both of these. Use both of them. Use your magazines that you picked up. If you've gone to the scrap box yet, you might have materials that you could use in there too. So start to play with that. Those of you who come back to hybrid, and you're coming back to school, I do also have a lot of collage materials in our classroom too. But that'll be later. That won't be obviously for this one, but for the next round of stuff, just be aware that there'll be more stuff available there. Okay. So now is the time for questions. I've talked a lot today. And I will tell you that on Tuesday, I already told you this once, but I'm going to specify this again. It's a completely asynchronous day. The only thing you have to do is work on this and check in on the check-in mandatory attendance post that day, because that's how you get that positive attendance. And what you'll have to do on the check-in post is show me a picture of what you've done so far on your collage. Or not your collage, it's not just collage. It actually doesn't even have to be a collage. It could be, you could do a painting of the fat baby, right? Doesn't have to be the actual use of the fat baby. I really like this image of the fat baby in my head now. I hope I find one in a magazine so I can use it for my example. Questions? No questions? I was clear enough this time. Wow, go me. So we'll be working on this. There'll be a reminder in Schoology on Tuesday of what you should be doing. And then next Friday, when we come back a week from today, we'll do like a share of this, and then we'll move on to the next activity. I also would like you to watch this video at some point between now and next Friday, just because we didn't get to it in class, and it's worth the watch. It's all about the banana. And she goes over, like, if you've heard about the banana, she goes over a lot of like other stuff about the banana that you wouldn't think about. So I highly recommend this video. Here are some student examples on how to appropriate. So this is the student created a new Barbie. So she took this image of Barbie, and then she drew it and turned it into this other Barbie. And that was her commentary or her appropriation of Barbie. And in this one, the student uses recycled images. So that's what you'll be doing, using a recycled image from your greeting card to talk about consumer culture. These are some of my past students who have used appropriated images. So either literal objects or cutouts, or digital. This one is digital. So we're not going to go with the digital because I guess if you wanted to do a digital portrait of the fat baby too, that wouldn't be the worst thing, but we're trying to keep it in the sketchbook. And I think these are all that is it. All the examples that I have. Cool. All right, we're done with 2 minutes to spare. Kept you for a long time today to make up for it. You got an asynchronous day next week, next Tuesday. Y'all have a wonderful, fantastic weekend. Thank you for the hard work. Bye-bye.